Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers, and welcome back to the fields of Jalsa Salana. We have just concluded Jalsa Salana through its sessions, and it culminated with a moving address by Amir Saab Mirza Mahfoor Ahmad Sahib of the United States of America. Truly a somber mood as people are revitalized in going back home to become better Ahmadi Muslims, inshallah. And one of the best ways to become a better Ahmadi Muslim is through reading the books that we have available at our disposal in our arsenal. And who better to speak to about these books than with Abdul Adil, who is Nazim Bookstall. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
So, Abdul Sahib, can you show us a little bit around the bookstall? So, what's going on here?
Yes, we have almost like 150 different titles of books. Mostly like 75 are English books and 50 of them are like the Urdu books. Like if I can just show you, like here are the English books, and this is a new book. It's written by the Rashid Arshad Saab, and he's a member from the New Jersey Jamaat, and this is a new book from him. And we have this the Hadith and Namat. It's recently like translated in English, so this is also a good selling. This is written by the Zafrullah Khan Sahab, and it's like we can say like it's a best selling for, and I recommend people to go through this book. Yeah.
It looks like you only have one left. Are there any more?
Yeah, we have a couple of more, but people are interested in this book.
So if you are watching and you have friends and family here, make sure you tell them to buy one of the remaining few copies of Tahdis and Namat, or Recollection of Divine Favors. Excellent. Okay. What else? What else do we have here?
We there's a new book called the Ask a Murabi, so that's also a good selling. So we have run out of that. So
Oh,
yeah.
sold out. Sold
Yes,
out. Excellent.
yes, exactly. But apart from that, the people are interested in the latest book, like the question answers, which are like modern types of question answers. So people are interested in like the modern kind of question answers. So that's also like some good selling books we have. Yeah.
This one seems like a new one by Hazur, A Message for Our Time.
Yes, I believe this is also like a latest published, and this is also like a good selling from our viewers. Yeah.
Nice, great. Oh, it looks like you only have two out right now, so this one's going well as well. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, look, excellent.
Yes,
The
we have,
the calendar is out.
Yes, the calendars are out, and I believe like last year we ran out of pretty soon. So this is like it should be like here for like maybe like less than 30 minutes now. Yes.
Okay, great, great. Let's see, and then
And from here we can see.
these don't look like books. What is
So
this?
these are the perfumes. It's also called like an attar. It comes from like Indian and subcontinent. So you just use it like a drop of that, and it stays for like a longer time. Yeah. So from here,
Great.
like, you can see like we have all the English, the Urdu books. We have like quite new collection, and I think the Hayat-e-Shams, it's a new one, and the Holy Quran is also like a best-selling. And this is
This looks like a new book.
yes, this one is done by Jamaat member from Harrisburg. I think his name is Salam Bhatti. So
I'm Salam Bhatti.
oh, yeah, I think it's your brother. The
No, this is by Sabia Seda. It says.
yes, I think it's his wife. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
okay.
his wife.
Cool,
So
cool.
they are introduced like this is a new book from their side, and it just illustrates like a
Oh, a children's book.
for children. So I think like this is also like good selling towards the women's side. Yeah.
Excellent. And hopefully men too who are dads.
And apart from here, we have all the English books, the Holy Quran. Like people are like interested into like a newer edition with the Holy Quran, especially like the English viewers, like through the tabligh. Like people are like more into like the tabligh activities. So people are like buying more the English books. We can say. Yep.
Now we've seen a lot speeches about financial sacrifice, about al wasiyat. This looks like you only have one copy left of the will.
Yeah, people are. We have like another book. It's I think it's financial sacrifice. We have like in Urdu and English, and like we have heard the speeches also from our speakers in Lajna side and the in the men's side. So these are also like pretty knowledgeable books. So I recommend people go through the speeches and through these books. Yeah.
So these speeches are having an influence on what people want to buy.
Yes, yes, definitely. Like because apart from speeches, like these books will give you the insight from the Holy Quran, from Hadith, from the writings and the examples. So I like those are also like a good source of knowledge. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, Jazakallah Abdul Saab, and I see you have quite a queue ready to come in and buy some books. So
Yes. Yes.
we're going to shoot it over back to Osama in the studio.
Me. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Jazakallah salam for showing us that beautiful tour of the bookstore that we have right at the side of the Jalsa Gah. We just wrapped up the 34th annual West Coast Jalsa Salana, closing out the final speech with the Mir Sahib. And one of the topics that we heard from Bilal Rana Sahib was how to create peace in our home. And in order to discuss such an important topic, we have with us the very respected Imam Hamad. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Imam Sahib, how can we create peace in our home? It's a very difficult thing that we deal with every single day, but surely there has to be ways that we can achieve it.
You know, there's really two ways you can approach this. Number one is, have we found peace within ourselves? Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Rabi rahmatullah alayhi, he explains in a speech of his that unless you find God, you cannot find peace. Without God, there is no peace. You know, when you destroy God and you stop searching for God, you end up erecting these different gods of your ego and your own self and your desires within yourself. And when you're battling with that, you can't have peace within yourself. And that carries forward in your interaction with your family, with your spouse, with your kids. But when you destroy the gods of your ego and you follow the worship of God and you search for God and establish that kind of peace within yourself, then you treat all of creation as a creation of God. You treat your spouse and your children as trust that God has given you. You know, there's a beautiful couplet of Hazrat Mubarakah Begum Sahiba, radhiyallahu anha, where she said, I'll translate this. She said, Mayus ho gamzada koi uske siwa nahi, kabza mein jiske kabza saif khuda nahi. She says that nobody can be depressed or hopeless. And this is what lack of peace comes from, anxiety. Nobody can be anxious, depressed, or hopeless except for the one who has the sword of God in his sheath. Meaning, if you have the sword of God, if you have prayer, if you have the search for God within you, then there is no depression or hopelessness or anxiety. You have that peace, and that peace then spreads to your family. So on an esoteric level, that's the way we establish peace in our homes. And then when you bring it down practically, you know, we find in guidance from Khalifatul Masih, he's explained that the reason we've lost peace in our homes is because husbands and wives have now developed a lack of tolerance for each other. You look at studies as well. There's a professor in France who recently said the number one cause for divorce isn't actually infidelity or loss of love, these things. It's just lack of tolerance. We can't tolerate each other anymore. Our idiosyncrasies, the weaknesses, all of those things. So Zura said this, when married couples go to him, he says that develop a tolerance for each other. And you know, beautifully he explains to us the meaning when the Quran says that a spouse is a garment for the other spouse. And he's given a very beautiful meaning of that. You know, what is the purpose of a garment? You know, it's supposed to hide your ugliness and it's supposed to make you look beautiful. And so Azur says to these couples when they come to him, he says that when you see something in your spouse that you don't like, he says, close your eyes, don't see it. Close your ears, don't hear it. Close your mouth, don't express it. Develop that tolerance. Be a garment for each other. But then he says the beautiful thing that when you see something you like in your spouse, open your eyes and see it, open your ears and hear it, and open your mouth and express it. Like a beautiful garment, make that the beautiful aspect of that person. Magnify that aspect. And that's how we can develop peace within our homes and within our families, and kind of arrest that movement we're going towards of the lack of tolerance and the rise of divorce.
Right. I think that's very well said. I mean, we see so many incidents, at least in Western society, where divorces are occurring just because people have lost love or fell out of love. But that seems like such a silly concept, right? I mean, love isn't something that you necessarily fall in or out of. It's more of a verb, right?
It's a verb,
more of an action that you actually do. And I think that exhibition that you're saying right now is that description of love being a verb, that love being a tolerance in the sense that you highlight those things that are beautiful and those things that are weaknesses, you ignore them.
Exactly. You know, we have this common conception that love is just something that comes from within you. You know, you feel it or you don't feel it. But in reality, and psychology tells us this, that you can develop emotions within yourself. You know, as the Masih says that when you're praying and you don't feel emotion in your prayer, you don't feel like crying, he says start fake crying. You start fake crying over time, you will actually cry. You'll actually have those tears. That's all philosophy of salat. When you're bowing, you're prostrating before Allah, if you don't feel the humility, that's fine. But the more you do it and the more you feel the emotion in those positions, you end up feeling humility towards Allah. Right. And so even in your family, in your marriage, when you have that, and every relationship goes through that, where you have moments where you don't feel into it. You're not into that person anymore, but then you force those actions. You know, you force the actions of love. Like in the speech of Bilal Rana Sahib today, he was saying these small actions of, drinking from the same spot she drank from.
Right, right.
These small actions, he sustained that marriage. And so that's what we really need to move towards, is using love as a verb and actually committing to these actions on a daily basis, forcing it out of us, and that reinstills a feeling of love. There's a hadith of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam where he actually said that when a husband who doesn't feel like going towards his wife but approaches her with love, he receives a reward. And when a wife who doesn't feel a love for her husband but approaches him with love, then receives that reward. That means you're creating that feeling of love by the action of love.
So what would be your advice to those couples who, say, for example, are in a circumstance where they're quarreling, where the husband and the wife are just, fighting over things that seem pretty significant, and then they come to the Jamaat, or they come to you as an imam, and they say, look, I just fight with my wife all the time. She believes that the kids should be raised this way. I think the kids should be raised that way. What is the solution that we provide in those circumstances? And I've fallen out of love with her. I feel like, why am I doing this? She's my roommate. She's not my wife. Even at that, we're bad roommates.
So every situation is unique and every situation is dynamic, and there's not one, piece of advice you can give to everyone. But the most basic thing really is developing small habits together. These small things can work where you're praying together. If you do 2 nafil together every day as a couple for your marriage, and you seek Allah's help together. And again, we have to face the reality that as Ahmadi Muslims, we believe in Allah. And if we believe in Allah, we believe that power exists, that there's an omnipotent being that can do anything for us. As the Masih Maud says that he received a revelation saying, where Allah told him that everything that happens in this day and age will happen through prayer. And so when everything will happen through prayer, then we have to seek the help of Allah. And when a couple prays to Allah together for help, then that I think is the best step that they can do to take to correct their marriage together. And then after that, there's many different things you can go to, is magnifying to each other the gratitude for one another. There have been couples where I've actually asked them to keep a gratitude journal for each other and write down and think about things you like about each, force those things out of you, appreciation for each other. And this way you can kind of slowly build a mentality of positivity in a relationship. But it's a lot of work. It takes long years to get to that point, but every situation is unique.
Yeah, and indeed, Allah Ta'ala is omnipotent and can do as He pleases, because we now have Bilal Rana Sahib in the studio through our prayers, Allah Ta'ala's prayer, and magnificent. So, Bilal Sahib, just to transition a little bit, Jazakallah for your very beautiful speech on trying to create tranquility within the home. To give the viewers a little bit of the inside scoop, and because you're one of my favorite speakers, so maybe this is more of a personal question that I just want to know. What is the process for you in drafting a speech, and what advice would you have to individuals that, inshallah, maybe one day they'll be giving a Jalsa speech, or in whatever capacity that they might have?
Jazakallah for having me in the studio, Assalamu alaikum. Well, I think the topics of all these speeches, actually, the interesting situation for a speaker is it applies to the speaker as well. And in addressing the question, you have to ask yourself honest questions. And as those questions come out, the more painful they are, the more honest they are, actually the better questions they are to address in the course of a speech. And so what you ultimately write is a speech kind of to yourself, and you ask yourself all the honest questions, and they're usually the ones that are the controversial questions. Taking a look at yourself and being honest with yourself. And then the answers to all these questions come from, and this is where the preparation is, and it's in all of our literature. The Holy Quran, a deep dive into our commentary, so many khutbat on all of these subjects, and they have just gracefully and elegantly answered all of these questions.
So Bilal Bhai, before you graduated to Ansarhood, if that's a proper term, you, alhamdulillah, through many years were Sadr Majlis Qudam al-Ahmadiyya, and through that, you, of course, had much experience with Qudam and working with them and knowing them in a very personal way. So my question to you then, if someone's watching this right now and say they don't have peace in their home, they're quarreling with their wives, whatever it might be, what are some steps that you would recommend to them in order to kind of create that harmony within their homes?
I think they have to relax and look for things that are instigating problems. And sometimes that can come from within you, being too sensitive, or from outside the home, family. I think we underestimate actually our contribution to the problems in a marriage. We don't realize that either our direct instigation or our neglect of another person is actually the cause of them being a problem for us. And we fixate on their reaction, but we don't realize that their reaction is a reaction to something that we're doing. And so I think that being honest about how you compare with the life of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. He had no interest in what his wives were doing for him per se. His responsibilities were his priorities, and he made that his own priority, and in doing so he got such tremendous love in return that many years after his death, his memory would cause them to tear up. And these were women that he may not have had so much in common with them. They were different ages, different tribes. Some of them had a different religious background going up before they became Muslim. And they fell in love by virtue of their behavior.
Right.
And falling in love means doing the right thing. It doesn't always mean, I feel like I'm on cloud 9.
Yeah, yeah.
Falling in love means you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
It's an action that you're
Yeah.
performing at home.
Yeah.
So just do the right thing, and you'll restore love with each other.
Well said. Now, Imam Saab, to take things back a little bit, to those individuals who are not yet in marriages, but are contemplating marriages or going to be in marriages, reflecting on what Mamir Saab said on Hazrat Khalifah Masih Rabi Rahmatullah's quote in 1991 to the Jalsa in Canada, that we're losing a generation who are falling out of the Jamaat system. And part of that is them falling into trends that are not Islamic and believing this type of maybe Hollywood edition of what love is supposed to be and not what love actually is, as shown by the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. To those individuals that are out there that consider dating or consider, interactions with their friends or girls at school, work, whatever it may be, to be more interesting than the teachings of Islam, what would be your advice to them in terms of trying to steer them back onto the right course?
At the end of the day, and I think Amir Saab has said this a number of times again and again, is you have to ask yourself the question, are you an Ahmadi Muslim? And how much does being an Ahmadi Muslim matter to you? If being an Ahmadi Muslim actually means something to you, if you know what the identity of being an Ahmadi Muslim is, then from the beginning you'll never have an interest in any other girl or in any other boy. That just won't occur to you. You'll know in your heart that you will always marry an Ahmadi Muslim. It's when we start losing that conviction in our hearts, in who we are, where we belong, our identity, in what we're supposed to be, that's when we'll be attracted to Jennifer in school or Brad at school and these things. That's when we'll fall into those traps. So the root of all of this can always be solved by just instilling in ourselves, and Azur said this tradition at the Committee of Canada and UK in 2013, that we have to understand why we're Ahmadi, understand the identity of an Ahmadi Muslim, instill that in the youth, and we solve all of these problems. We solve all the tarbiyat issues that are out there as well, but just by this one fact.
So indeed, the identity of being an Ahmadi Muslim is at our core. And this Jalsa really honed in on focusing on that identity. Now, we're going to go see what is going on with Salam Bhai over at the Atfal
In
stall.
Virginia? No, okay. Jazakallah Sama, and welcome back, dear viewers, back into the field of Jalsa Salana. We're here at the Atfal booth, where nations are formed from the Atfal, and it's really important to see what they're doing here. So I'm here with Rana Sahib. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
And we have something here. What is this? Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on here?
So what we're doing right now, the main attraction of this booth is the scavenger hunt. Basically, we ask Atfal about their favorite part of the Jalsa, and they interview a couple of elders and listen to a bunch of speeches and write down what they saw, and they can earn a couple of prizes when they do it.
Okay, so prizes are always important. Noor, what do we got to win?
Sure. So we have these fantastic Atfal caps, as you can see Daniel, Salman, Zad, and Sultan are wearing because they completed the scavenger hunt. We also have fantastic water bottles, as you can see in front, which have the Atfal logo as well as Atfal al Ahmadiyya written on it. We've had numerous Atfal complete these scavenger hunts and they have been awarded. We also had awesome uh, other smaller prizes like chocolate. They all ran out, of course.
Okay, so they had to answer 9 things or do 9 things, and then they would get a prize.
Correct.
And it seems like they all have hats. They've either done the duty or won some prizes,
Yes.
or done the whole hunt.
Yes, so one of the requirements of getting the hat is doing water duty. And all these Atfal have done water duty these past 3 days, distributing water to all the guests of the Promised Messiah, and have earned their awesome prizes.
Mashallah. And then with the scavenger hunt, they also get a water bottle. It shows the importance of hydration, right?
Yes, it does.
So okay, let's do a quick pop quiz. Let's see, what was your favorite part of Jalsa Salana and why?
My favorite part of Jalsa Salana is the speeches because then we can learn new things about the religion of Islam, and we can also like see what like learn more about like the Holy Prophet and the Promised Messiah.
All right, excellent. What about you, young man? What's your favorite part of Jalsa and why?
I like the Salin that they have because I think it tastes good.
You like the silent part of Jalsa Salana. Excellent, great. And how about you, young man? What's your favorite part of Jalsa and why?
I normally like hanging out with friends and having a good time.
Excellent, very important part of Jalsa too. And you, young man, how about you? What's your favorite part of Jalsa and why?
Everything.
Everything. You know what? They all deserve a hat for these answers. Oh, look, you all have hats. Excellent. Well done. Very good. Very good. And then how about did all of you do water duty? Raise your hands. Oh, no water duty here. Okay. Oh, he helped out. He's great. You know, these guys, you have a good team here. How many Atfal did you have?
Yes, so in the Majlis we have 77, and we tried engaging as many as we could to do water distribution or helping out in the booth. These 4 Atfal also helped to manage the Atfal booth, right? So all these Atfal have been helping in different areas and in managing the booth as well as distributing.
And how big was your Atfal water distribution team?
We had roughly 30 Atfal, some local as well as some out of country.
Wow, mashallah. Excellent. Well done, gentlemen. And young squires, thank you so much. Jazakallah for all your work, and may you have a blessed journey home, all right? Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum. Excuse me, young man. All right, so let's take a quick walk out. I wish I was still at Tifl so I could get one of those cool hats and water bottles because hydration is very important. Here we have the Review of Religions stall. It's a very important magazine, one of the longest running as well. And it's let's take a little look around here. Assalamu alaikum.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you enjoying Jalsa?
Alhamdulillah, Jalsa's been great. What's your name and what are you doing here?
My name is Rayan ul Haq Khan, and I am here as representative for Review of Religions. So we're just here reminding people of the Review of Religion subscriptions and whether or not it's still active. And if it's not active, then we can renew it. And if they don't have it, well, we can sign them up very easily.
What have the numbers been like here at this year's Jalsa? Are people coming in and signing up?
Yeah, we get some every now and again, but blessedly, a lot of this Jamaat is very active, so a lot of people already have a subscription. But an important thing for a lot of people to remember is even if you haven't renewed your subscription, the review still sends copies. So it's always important to keep up to date on whether or not you are subscribed to the review and whether or not you have an active subscription. So that's what we're just doing here today right now.
Okay, let's. What's the website people can visit to sign up?
It's very easy. You will. The way I've always done it is just type in reviewofreligions.com on any search engine. Go to the first link, and then it's a very easy layout. Just go to the subscribe button. You click the home button, and there's a subscription link at the bottom. Click it, and it's very simple. You just you put in a credit card or PayPal, a few quick address, type in name, number, and then you're done.
Excellent. It's that easy. So make sure you sign up for a Review of Religions. Jazakallah, buddy. Have a good day. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back to the conclusion of the 34th Annual West Coast Jalsa Salana in just a bit. Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers, and welcome to the field here at Jalsa Salana. I am here with Taha Azim from Seattle Jamaat. Assalamu alaikum, Taha.
Walaikum salam. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing well. And now, how are you doing here at this third and final day of Jalsa?
So, you know, it's a honor and a blessing to be here, and like I'm from Seattle, and
and we drove here. So we got here, alhamdulillah, by Allah's grace. So I like it very much. The stalls look good. Everything here looks good. So yeah.
But now, being here over the weekend means you're not at Tahir Academy. So how do you feel about that? Do you like Tahir Academy? Do you enjoy going?
Oh yeah, especially like the classes, meeting my friends, snacks, everything. It's all good. They're really nice over there and stuff.
What is your favorite part about Tahir Academy?
Recess and Islamic history.
Oh, what makes you so interested about Islamic history?
So we learn about the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu life and like all the khulafas and like a lot of different Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, and it's just kind of interesting how those people lived and stuff, and how those people spreaded Islam with peace. And
So what is something that you've learned about Islamic history that the viewer probably does not know?
I do know that Hazrat Umar, he was a cousin of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he was the nephew of one of the Prophet's uncles. So I'm not sure if you guys knew that or didn't know that, but if it was new to you, then yeah, just told you.
Now, sometimes there's children out there that don't go to Tahir Academy. What can you say to them to make them go to Tahir Academy?
If you guys live too far or have any troubles or anything, just come to Tahir Academy once a month, and I assure you, if you come at least once a month, next time try to come twice, and then come 3 times, and then come whenever there's classes. So then after that, you guys will like it. I assure you, because the classes over there are really fun. Everybody's nice and stuff. They'll welcome you, and yes.
Jazakallah Taha for your time, and we appreciate it. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Jazakallah salam for giving us that unique Tifl perspective that we always need to, recognize and appreciate during our jalsas. I'm here with very respected guests to give a bit of a recap of the jalsa, both from the inside and from the outside. We have Afsar Jalsa Gah Asan Mahmood Khan Sahab. Assalamu alaikum. And we also have National Secretary Muriama Bilal Rana Sahab. Assalamu alaikum. Now, Afsar Sahab, could you please tell us what exactly your role is and how it differentiates between Afsar Jalsa Salana and the other roles that you had in your team as you put together this jalsa?
Sure. Jazakallah for having me, and Mubarak on a successful jalsa, and the work that you guys have been doing in this MTA studio has been very fun to watch. Afsar Jalsa Salana, Afsar basically means officer. It actually literally means officer. It's like a pronunciation
You have
of
a badge?
officer.
Because I don't know if you did.
Yeah. And so there's different offices of Jalsa. It's a beautiful nizam, actually, and there's basically 3 offices, Afsar Jalsa Salana, which easy way to think of it is they kind of manage the overall Jalsa, and particularly those aspects of the Jalsa that are accommodating to the guests, making sure that they're accommodated well, they're fed well, their transportation is done smoothly, the facilities are up to par. It's a huge responsibility, and our respected Sadr Sahab of LA, Nasser Noor Sahab, he's been serving as Afsar Jalsa Salana for many years, and he served this year as well. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it onto this set because he's in the middle of doing all of that work.
Right.
And then I was blessed with the opportunity to serve as Afsar Jalsa Gah this year. Afsar Jalsa Gah basically will handle sort of the program, manage the program of the Jalsa, the speakers, and the content, as well as exhibition. There's also audio-video, MTA, the studio over here, and there's a guest session that we have every year. And then there's Afsar Khidmat Khalq. This year we were very blessed that Sadr Majlis Khudam al-Ahmadiyya USA Madil Abdullah Sahab attended Jalsa, and he served as Afsar Khidmat Khalq, and he had a large team under him, including the Qaideen, regional Qaideen here in LA. So these are, they're responsible for security, parking, and just a protection of the Jalsa. So these are basically the main offices of Jalsa.
MashaAllah. And as a guest of the Promised Messiah and the guest of the West Coast Jalsa Salana, Bilal Bhai, I hope you were well fed. and I hope that you received all the accommodations that you needed. But how was your experience coming to this Jalsa? You've been to this Jalsa quite a few times.
I have. Alhamdulillah, it's been a good handful now. And of course, blessed to attend the National Jalsa as well every year. And coming here and comparing it obviously happens naturally. I'm an outsider coming in and outsider for National Jalsa as well. But coming here, the hosts have a kind of like, they feel like it's a special pride you get. Although the National Jalsa is also, people carry a lot of pride, but here not only are you putting on the event, but you're literally hosting in the city where most of the organizers are actually from. And there's kind of like this double pride that I think we feel. And there's more attention to detail, I think, because of that. The smiles are very genuine, and it's just kind of authentic. It's also more intimate. It's smaller than the National Jalsa. There's less headaches, I think.
Right.
And because of that, it just more brotherhood and more energy, the charisma. I really like that.
Yeah.
And I
Just
think that
West Coast is better than East Coast. Salambai isn't here, so we can just kind of get that on the record.
Well, he's in Texas, so he's got a different
He's
spin
in the
on it.
middle.
Yeah.
South Coast. It's
South Coast, yeah.
But I mean, it's really charming actually here. It's a lot slower in a good way. You have, because it's the area smaller, there's a lot more contact between all of the people bouncing around. And so you inevitably meet everybody. And I mean, the Lungar here is very, they're always asking, how are you doing? How was the food? Can I get you? It's always
We're
fresh.
not going to tell you our secret recipe, okay? That's just the West Coast.
The chai is really good. And you guys do an amazing job. But tempers are always under control in Lungar here. And the weather's here is fantastic. And it's been really, really nice here. Very temperate because, I mean, it's really, you have a lot of extremes. Of West Coast, East Coast, and National Jalsa, it can get very hot actually during summertime.
Right.
And during this time of year, it's really cold everywhere else.
Right.
And you come here and you really enjoy.
So After Saab, this year we actually changed things up a little bit. We had a whole level of added security that we normally don't have.
Right.
And we had very limited parking, if any, for individuals, even for the volunteers, that to park at Bait al-Hamid. How did you deal with those challenges?
Well, again, fortunately, I personally didn't have to because I respected Afsar Jalsa Salana Nasser Nur Saab and Afsar Khidmat-e-Khalq Madil Abdullah Saab and his team. That was under their department, and I admire the effort that they put in to change it up. Security is always an issue, and under the guidance of respected Amir Saab, the Afsaran felt that metal detectors and proper screening of all members should take place, and it's good training for our Khuddam. So that was implemented, similar to as it's done in the U.S. Jalsa Salana. And then because the attendance of Jalsa steadily increases every year, as we hope it should, parking has become an issue because Bait al-Hamid Mosque has modest parking spaces, enough for local LA Jamaat, but when you invite the West Coast, it becomes more challenging.
Right.
And so for that reason, off-site parking was had to be managed in a much more thoughtful way. And so for that reason, more transportation and shuttling and whatnot was needed. And again, I commend my fellow Afsaran for making that seamless. I asked my wife last night, who was taking the shuttle back and forth, how was her experience? And she said it was much better than last year. And that was nice to hear that she enjoyed that experience.
That's good. And that it wasn't you driving your wife. I mean,
Yes.
I'm not going to highlight that, but you know.
Yeah, I do drive her, but I drive her crazy. Not like actually physically drive her. Yeah.
Well, that's good that you asked that because we can actually ask the Afsar Jalsa Salana, who has magically appeared. Assalamu alaikum, Nasser Nur Saab.
Walaikum assalam.
Jazakallah for coming. Nasser Nur Saab, you're also Sadr of Los Angeles Jamaat, the new Los Angeles Jamaat. So Sadr Saab, how did you face some of those difficulties in some of the new procedures that we had with the security and the parking and just the overall circumstances of the larger individuals at Bait al-Hamid Mosque? We have a large compound, alhamdulillah, but it's now becoming a bit modest for the needs of the West Coast Jalsa. How did you handle that?
Sure. First of all, assalamu alaikum everyone.
Assalamu
Jazakallah for the opportunity to be here. I'm sorry I'm a little bit late. Jalsa, mashallah, is a blessings upon the Los Angeles Jamaat to host it for many years. I think even though it's a 34th year, but I would say 2009 is when we start hosting it again at Bait al-Hamid. They were holding it before that as well. So every year, alhamdulillah, the things have been improving with the guidance of Amir Saab. There are some challenges, but we were in constant contact with respected Amir Saab. And as Afsar Jalsa Gah mentioned, we had the metal detectors this year for security. Amir Saab had approved that. We had bulletproof jackets, increased numbers. The parking is also a challenge, but a few hours ago I learned that a couple of our neighbors who had kind of complained about some of our guests parking there, and a CHP, which is a California Highway Patrol, came in yesterday to see the situation. And one of the officers made a comment to one of our person who was at the gate that, look, you guys are parked fine. You're not blocking anyways entrance or exit. And these no parking signs should be removed. So you should talk to the county about it. And we were very delighted to hear that. And the blessings of the Jamaat is that there was a Christmas party that I went to drop off some flyers to the dignitaries so they can come to the event. And I met the local lieutenant of the California Highway Patrol, Richard Mendez. And that was the first time. And of course, it was the blessings of Jamaat that I had the opportunity to meet with him. So I sent him an email, first of all, thanking him that his officer came to check up on us. But I informed him that this is what's going on. And then we had the county supervisor present yesterday from San Bernardino County, although I didn't mention it, but I'm going to plan to mention it. So some of the things happen in disguise that you may think that they're not good, but the benefit is there. So inshallah that will improve next year. The parking shuttle team and the Khidmat al-Khalq team, alhamdulillah, did a tremendous job as always. And the Langar Khana team, mashallah, did a great effort. If you allow me a couple of minutes, I would like to share some improvements in the Langar Khana.
Please.
Last year when Amir Saab came in, he mentioned few things, so I'm going to highlight two things. One was the quality of the food, and the second, the guest dinner for the dignitaries, outside guest. So the quality of the food, Amir Saab mentioned that the type of meat that we use and the size of the boti, the piece of meat that we use, he gave us some directions on that. So we went ahead and we had a meeting about 3 months before the Jalsa. We discussed with the Amir Saab and we received the approval that we're going to go ahead and reach out to a local slaughterhouse and we're going to pick our own animals. And so we picked 14 goats. And our Nazim Langar Khana, who happens to be a veterinarian, so he has a very good eye to pick at those animals. So he knows not only that is the type of the animal, make sure the animal is not sick, make sure the animal doesn't have any disease. So those things came into play. So we hand-picked those animals. We put them on the side. It was kind of funny. He put an X on them. It was kind of sad, like you're going to be slaughtered in a few hours. So we put those animals on the side, and then it took them a weekend to slaughter them. And then I saw them. They really, would love. They removed all the chichires, the excess tendons and things like this, the fat from that. So they made a very, effort into it. And then they picked the veal, which we serve today. That was two 1-year-old animals or 2 years old animals. So that was one thing. And then on the guest dinner, Amir Saab had given us the instructions to follow the U.S. Jalsa Salana format. So with the help of the team on the East Coast, we were able to get the Lazy Susans. They came in Friday, and they had to be assembled. So the team worked very hard overnight to put them together. And so we did that. The menu was approved by Amir Saab. Every single detail was approved by Amir Saab in constant communication, phone calls, emails. So alhamdulillah, with that kind of attention to detail by respected Amir Saab, and then Allah Ta'ala blessed us to go ahead and work on those details. It's not an easy task, So alhamdulillah, I think we still have room to improve. There's definitely room to improve, and we'll seek Amir Saab's guidance continuously.
Afsar Saab, through your experience as Rishta Nata Secretary, to change gears a little bit, clearly Amir Saab's speech was something that was very important for the Rishta Nata department. And not to throw another softball question, but to throw a hot ball question, if that's a phrase. What are some goals or some plans for the Rishta Nata department to try to reverse those trends that Hazrat Khalifah Masih Rabe, foretold us back in 1991 that we're now seeing happening, to at least prevent it for future generations?
Yeah, and I think the fact that our respected Amir Sahib in his closing address a few hours ago or an hour ago began with a quote from Hazrat Khalifa Masih Rabe rahimahullah, addressed to Canadian Lejna in 1991, which is timeless in nature, and it applies to men and women, not just in Canada but around the world, particularly to us in America, is very telling. His speech lended to a lot of introspection, and we have multiple issues within our youth and our parents in terms of our spiritual fortitude, our tarbiyat. And when the spiritual fortitude, our tarbiyat, is weak, then everything sort of follows suit, whether it's our ability to convey the message effectively, our ability to make financial sacrifices, both of which were alluded to today in other speeches, and then to your point, our ability to find a righteous spouse. And so everything is rooted in what we call taqwa, or fear of God. And I think Hazur's words, Khalil Masih Rabi's words, which Amir Sahib quoted, are a telling reminder that we need to do a lot of introspection. Rishta Nata it's a sacred institution of Jamaat Ahmadiyya that was started by Masih Maud al-Islam himself. And obviously, the system is a beautiful system. The challenges come in those who are the stewards of that system, us, that are tasked with that responsibility to operate under the department. So I was tasked with this new responsibility a few months ago under the direction of Amir Sahib, and I've sought his counsel. I've written to Hazur for advice, and it's been a learning process. And I realized that we have multiple challenges with Rishta Nata, but there's a lot of hope. I think there's a lot of good that's happening within the Jamaat. I think parents are getting the message, children are getting the message that the conversation about marriage and finding the right partner needs to happen at a very young age. And Amir Sahib was directly addressing that population today. My own children were in the audience, my daughter, my two sons, and their friends. And Amir Sahib was talking to them. Yeah. I think that's where I think we really can really look in a positive direction, that our children hopefully will start thinking about the process of Rishta Nata at a very young age. But we do have those challenges, and we just need to be mindful of those.
And that's something that we will be mindful and continue to be mindful. So take us on a short break, and we'll be back soon.
पर फरिश्ते निछावर करें और कुशादा तरक्की की राहें करें। आरज़ूएं मेरी जो दुआएं करें, रंग लाएं मेरे मेहमान के लिए, रंग लाएं मेरे मेहमान के लिए। आए वो दिन कि हम जिनकी चाहत में गिनते थे दिन अपनी तस्कीन जाके लिए। आए वो दिन, आए वो दिन, आए वो दिन, आए वो दिन। वो पेशवा हमारा जिसे है नूर सारा, नाम उसका मोहम्मद, यही है दिलबर मेरा यही है
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. You saw us when we started, you're seeing us when we ended. It's been 3 magical, amazing, magnificently blessed days here at Bat Al Hamid in West Coast, 34th annual Jalsa Salana. Salam, I don't know about you, but I am filled with emotions right now. If there was a pin and I was a balloon, I would pop emotions.
Man, it has been such a ride here at Jalsa Salana. Earlier we talked about how these 3 days can really rejuvenate somebody. And really, I mean, especially with the culmination of Amir Saab's speech, that really just went straight to the issue, real direct. How have we failed and how can we understand that we failed? How can we grow from that? It's very powerful.
And I really, I mean, I felt like for us in particular, being from that, you know, general 90s kids timeline when that speech was originally provided in 1991 from Hazrat Khalifatul Masih Rabbi rahmatullah, it was a very kind of a version for me to reflect, like, where am I in my life? Am I, you know, on that state where the Jamaat is important for me? Or am I at that state where it's not, especially as my son was sleeping on me, and it's similar for you, right? So
it was a quite a juxtaposition to see that happen. And happening here at Bat Al Hamid Mosque, which has been so open, you know, for everybody to be able to walk around and engage in different conversations in different types of settings. You can do it inside the masjid, you can do it outside underneath the sun or the starry sky. In the Jalsa Gah, you know, everything is different, but it's all in one place and it's all accessible to everybody.
And I just hear you saying that the West Coast is better than the East Coast. That's all I just heard.
Oh, really?
So
okay.
that's a great Jazakallah salam. I appreciate that.
Put all the words in my mouth. As long as it comes with some longer comment.
No, but you are right. Alhamdulillah, the West Coast has this type of atmosphere to it, has this type of aura to it. You know, it's one of the few Jalsas where the masjid itself is the facility of the Jalsa Salana, where we're able to host that. I mean, hopefully, inshallah, you know, we can keep maintaining that, but eventually there will be so many people that even this site won't be sufficient.
I mean, we saw some new changes this year where you can't even park on set anymore because now we need to use those parking spaces for Jalsa facilities. So I give it another 3-4 years, inshallah, and then we got to find a new spot.
That's probably what's going to happen, inshallah, and that'll just be the blessings of Allah that even more and more people from across the world will want to come to this West Coast.
Well, especially our viewers.
Right.
You know, we'll have them come here, and then who will we talk to?
Exactly. Oh,
so we'll find you.
We'll just talk to each other.
Yeah. It's always good. So it's good. But we hope that the last 3 days were. We hope that the last 3 days were great for you, and as it was for us and all those who were present here. It's been an absolutely amazing journey to share these 3 days with you, to spend them with you, to see what's going on hashtag Jalsa WC. But of course, Jalsa must end so that we can return to our homes and practice the teachings that we have been taught here over these past 3 days. So from everybody here at MTA Studios, Osama and myself, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and peace and the blessings of God be upon you.